Okay, let's look at some of the exercises in in Hardegree's text to um, uh, reinforce these concepts. Um, the Hardegree exercises are crucial to go over. If you have a homework assignment coming up for this, for summer class, it's still helpful to do the exercises and then work on the homework. The homework will be similar questions of my own um, making, right? But that test the same material. So the exercises are great practice, great testing. You have answers for the exercises, so you can see whether your answers are accurate before you go to answer the homework questions. Or if you have any, or in other semesters, I give exam on this material. Same idea. Okay. Um, the the aim of these exercises are to reinforce what is validity. Can you recognize the difference between a valid argument and an argument just with true premises, right? Do all valid arguments have true premises? No. Okay. And then to give you some examples to identify, is it valid? Is it factually correct? Is the conclusion true? Is it sound? And again, to reinforce the idea that make sure you understand validity so that you don't assume that, oh, it's valid, it must have true premises. No. Okay, so that's to reinforce that. This is crucial. This idea of the deductive relationship just has to be in the background for you. When we start to look to examples, right, as we get later in the semester, the next thing we're going to do is start to represent these argument formulas with symbols to kind of show the logical relationships. I have videos on that for chapter 2 and following, right? Well, when we start getting into, look, A and B is true, there you can deduce this. The notion of deduction has to be rock solid, right? You can't have this notion that a valid argument is an argument with true statements. No, terrible, terrible. Of course, you can reason badly from true statements, right? In fact, that's how you get away with it sometimes, right? Well, the statements were true. You made a logical leap to your conclusion, but the statements were true, so we let you get away with it, right? All cats are mammals. Cleo is a mammal, so Cleo's a cat. Yeah, sounds right. That's invalid, right? So we're trying to reinforce this idea of validity. Okay. Um, I focus on exercise set A and B, not for chapter 1, not exercise set C. So we'll practice some of those. Okay. All right. I know you're not seeing the screen, but I will work through these. You have the exercise book. I'll state the numbers. Okay. Let's just work through these first few to start with. Okay. The questions are going to be of this type. When Hardegree says in any valid argument, right? He's asking, does every valid argument, number one says, in any valid argument, the premises are all true, right? The question is, true or false? Every valid argument has all true premises. Is that right or is that wrong, right? And what we're testing is whether you've understood the definition and distinguished it from other ideas. Okay. Number one, in any valid argument, the premises are true, right? The question to you for number one is, does every valid argument, that's the any valid argument, and any and every, does every valid argument have true premises? No. Okay? Not all valid arguments are what we call factually correct. There are, so right, the flip side of this, right, are all of them, or are there contrary examples? Does every valid argument have true premises? No. There are examples of valid argument with false premises. I've given you some. I'll just remind you again. All cats are cold-blooded. Cleo is a cat, so Cleo is cold-blooded. This is a valid argument. It follows that same valid pattern. All A is B. Cleo is A, so Cleo must be B since all A is B. That's valid. That's good reasoning. But this premise is false. This premise is false. So, does every valid argument have true premises? No. There's lots of examples of valid arguments with false premises. That's what you have to hold together in these questions. Make sure you see what they're asking. Okay. In any valid argument, the conclusion is true, right? And all these are going to be tempting because you're going to relate aspects of it. In any valid argument, the conclusion is true. No. This is number 2. Does every valid argument have a true conclusion? No. No. You might remember, sound, right? True premise is guaranteed. There are valid arguments with false conclusions. Okay? What else do you know about such arguments? They must have false premises. Okay? They must have false premises. Okay? So, does every valid argument have a true conclusion? No. Okay? Another way to ask this is, right, there are other ways to ask this, other wording for this. I might say, is every argument with a false conclusion invalid, for example? Okay? Right. Does every valid argument have a true conclusion? No. Okay? The argument I just gave you had a false conclusion. All cats are cold-blooded. This is exercise number 2. That's the first premise. All cats are cold-blooded. Cleo's a cat. So Cleo is cold-blooded. Okay? This is false. This is false, this conclusion. Okay? It's valid, but it's valid. Valid argument, false conclusion. Okay? A valid argument has to have at least one false premise to have a false conclusion. But again, part of this chapter 1 is getting you to practice deduction. Wait a minute, don't draw a hasty conclusion from that. Right? Here would be a wrong conclusion. So valid arguments with false premises have false conclusions. Not every one. This one does. But there are valid arguments with false premises and true conclusions, right? I've given you an example of that. All cats are cold-blooded. That's false. That's a false premise. All cold-blooded creatures are mammals. That's false. But it leads, the logical deduction is all cats are mammals, which is true. Okay? So you can have valid arguments with false premises and a true conclusion, right? But number 2 asked, does every valid argument have a true conclusion? The answer is no. There are some with false conclusions. Okay, right? You have to distinguish this. Right? The nice thing about having the answers here in the workbook, right, is before you do the homework, try these exercises. The ones you get wrong, figure out why. Right? And correct it, right? Correct. Right? If you don't understand, if you say yes to number 2, right? Yes, every valid argument has a true conclusion. And you see, oh wait, no, that's wrong. Why is it wrong? And remember, valid arguments can have false conclusions. Oh, right, okay, right? And reinforce the concept. Okay. Number 3 is the definition of valid. In any valid argument, if the premises are all true, conclusion is also true. Yes. Okay? That's a rare one. For these all questions, it's rare the answer is going to be yes. But in this case, every valid argument with true premises has a true conclusion. That's the definition. The validity says a valid argument is one where If you input true premises, you will get a true conclusion. That's not the only way to get a true conclusion, right? As we've seen other examples. But if you input true premises into a valid argument form, you will get a true conclusion. Number 3, yes. Okay? But you'll see a lot of no's on the rest of these, right, to distinguish. Number 4, in any factually correct argument, the premises are all true. Yes, that's the definition of factually correct. The definition of factually correct is premises are all true. Premises are all true equals factually correct. So 4 is right. In any factually correct argument, the conclusion is true. Okay, check your workbook, write an answer before I say. No. You can have a factually correct argument with a false conclusion. All of those are what? Think about it for a second. Factually correct arguments with false conclusions have to be invalid. All of those are invalid. Again, remember the comment, right? All of those are invalid, but there are other invalid arguments as well. In any sound argument, the premises are all true. Yes, that's part of the definition. Sound arguments are arguments that are both valid and factually correct. In any sound argument, the conclusion is true. Yes. Okay. The others you can deduce from here. I'm gonna move on with that. Yep. Every sound argument is valid. Is every valid argument sound? Think about that for a second. No. Every sound argument is both valid and factually correct. So is every valid argument sound? No. There are valid arguments with false premises. They are not sound. Okay. 10 is no. Okay, sorry, you're not looking at the exercises, right? Every factually correct argument is valid. No. Valid does not guarantee factually correct, and factually correct does not guarantee valid. There are invalid arguments with true premises. Again, it's easy. It's easy to reason badly. You can reason badly from true statements. And again, I've given you examples of that, right? All cats are mammals. Cleo's a mammal. Those are true premises. Therefore, Cleo's a cat. That's an invalid argument. Invalid argument with true premises. Okay? All right. I'm going to let you work on these. I wanted for the videos to provide some orientation to the idea of validity, invalidity. Spend some time trying to explain, okay, why can a valid argument have false premises? Let's think about how that works. And we will go from there. The other type of exercise looks at examples of arguments and asks you to determine is the argument valid or invalid. Next question, does it have all true premises? Next question, does it have a true conclusion? Next question, is it sound, right? And mostly those questions are independent. Not completely, if you're thinking about the definition of these, right? But mostly, right, if you're asked if the argument is factually correct, just check the premises and see if they're true. Ignore the argument, right? Every semester, students get themselves into trouble. They say things that they know are false. They say they're true because they got messed up. Oh, it's a valid argument. I thought it had that. Okay, look at the statement. Is the statement true? Cats are lizards. No, they're not lizards. Right? But the argument's valid. That's right. You can have a valid argument with false premises, right? Or just everything we do in this unit is to reinforce that idea, the difference between reasoning well based on premises, and that is different from the premises being true, or the conclusion being true, right? Good reasoning, valid reasoning is making the appropriate link between premise and conclusion. Okay, I'm going to stop this one there, and we'll move on from there with chapter 1.